What's the real problem that incels just don't get? Story 1. First things first, let's define what incel means, for those who are lucky enough not to know it. Incel is short for involuntarily celibate, and it's an adopted label for a group of enraged young males who believe that women conspire to deny them the pleasure and intimacy they require to live a normal life. While some have taken a deep dive into the dark side, most incels haven't, but they're on a concerning path. My friend doesn't fit the typical incel stereotype. The guy is seriously muscular. He actually helped me when I started lifting. However, he's about as intellectually stimulating as a box of rocks and has zero personality. Like, none at all. He's into cars, but that's pretty much it when it comes to things he's genuinely interested in. The rest of his personality is just a mishmash of machismo that is incorporated into his image. This is because he doesn't seem to view women as people. He believes that there's a checklist of things that, if achieved, will earn him a woman. Maybe in the mail, I guess, since he never goes to social places and doesn't do online dating. His muscles, to impress women. The truck he can't afford but drives anyway, also to impress women. The unkempt beard, yep, that's for women too. He even carries an oversized knife everywhere, hangs half-naked Playboy posters on his walls, wears boots and a cowboy hat, though he's never left the city, and so on. I've tried explaining to him that muscles or not, no woman wants someone who is blatantly fake. I mean, I don't even know what he's genuinely into besides lifting and cars. He seems interested in my geeky hobbies, but he never takes me up on my offers to join because he thinks he's not nerdy. Yet he constantly asks about them. I really feel bad for him. He's a 25-year-old man with a good job and takes care of himself. If he just dropped the act for 30 freaking seconds, I bet some girl would love to date him. He is, probably, not gay. He has had a few women show interest, but he immediately texts them excessively and takes things way too quickly. I've seen the texts, and with his poor spelling and grammar, he comes across as a bit psycho via text. This usually scares them off pretty quickly, which upsets him. He does genuinely seem to want to date women, and he does a decent job of attracting them initially, but he can't seem to stick the landing. His personality is a jumbled mess of random masculine ideals. It's clear that they're not who he really is. He's just associated those things with success with women. This is especially noticeable during those texts, as he shoehorns those things into every conversation. He makes a big deal about the type of woman he wants. They should be short, white, big-busted beings who are also chaste and fiercely loyal. The last woman he was texting was a Hispanic single mother of two, note from two different dads. She was a sweet girl who was very pretty, but she didn't meet his self-proclaimed standards, although he didn't seem to mind. Regarding nerdy hobbies, he plays some video games, mostly racing games. He also seems to be interested in tabletop games, but he won't come to game night. It's clear that he's scared of being judged for these hobbies. We're in the South and he's from a deep Southern country. About the truck he bought, it's huge, brand new and costs around $900 a month between gas, insurance, and payment. He can technically afford it, but it requires significant financial sacrifices since he's making around $40,000. Finally, I may have convinced him to take down the posters. I haven't been to his place in a while, but he seemed to agree with me about how off-putting they would be to women. Not that one has ever gotten that far. Now we just have to work on him dressing like a person and not a cigarette ad, talking to women like they're people and not toys, and learning to show interest in things outside of the stereotypical manly things he follows. Baby steps, though. If you've got a buddy who has the symptom of an incel, don't throw in the towel just yet. With your help, he might give up his My Little Pony for the real deal. Story 2. There was this guy I met in college. We ended up as partners for numerous group projects, and he always pulled his weight to keep things running smoothly. We hung out quite a bit, and over time we became pretty good friends. Then one day out of the blue, he starts ranting about how all women are snarky and sleep around with any guy who owns a two-door car. We were in a group study session, and one of the girls was sharing her fun night out at a downtown club. Mid-story, he rudely interrupts her and asks, "So, who did you hook up with that night?" The way he said it was so condescending, and the poor girl just gave him the disgusted look before going back to her book. What shocked me the most was that it seemed like he took satisfaction in shutting her down and making her feel bad. I'm still in shock about it. I'm not entirely sure, but I think maybe his standards are unrealistically high. He's only shown interest in a handful of women over the years, and they're usually cute, skinny white girls who already have plenty of guys interested in them.
What was the worst time you walked in?
Rufus Rugs, open up! Sorry for barging in like that, but I just had to share the sponsor of today's video. Me and the boys from Rufus Rugs. Now you might be saying to yourself,
excuse me, what the actual are you doing in my house?
But I can assure you're gonna like this. We've been hard at work creating the best quality and premium hand-tufted rugs money can buy. Now imagine this. You, chilling on your bed, watching a Rufus Stories video, and staring at a rug that's not just a rug. Nope, it's a masterpiece. It's the kind of rug that makes your friends wish they were you. But they're not. And the best part is that these aren't your average cheap quality rugs. Nope, each one is handcrafted by me and the boys. No shortcuts, no robot assembly lines, and no dropshipping BS. Just pure rug grind. Whether you love anime, sports, cars, or anything else you can think of, we can turn it into a rug. So click the first link in the description and have your custom idea come to life. Story 3. I had this college buddy who, although he'd probably never admit it, fits the description of an incel. You know, the classic neckbeard type, always wondering why girls weren't into him. He was convinced it was because of his weight and his nerdy interests, and he thought women were just too shallow to appreciate what a great guy he was. But here's the thing. Overweight people can have fulfilling romantic lives too. If they're fun, cool, and kind, not just nice, they shouldn't have any trouble. One thing he and probably most incels, neckbeards, and nice guys need to hear is a quote from the movie The Social Network. But you're going to go through a life thinking that girls don't like you because you're a nerd. And I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that that won't be true. It'll be because you're an a-hole. Now you might wonder, did he ever consider dating other overweight people? I mean, we need to be self-aware, and it seems like a lot of these incel guys aim way out of their league. I also knew this girl who was overweight in her 20s. Most overweight guys rejected her, so she ended up dating skinny guys who were just looking for a good time and had great attitudes. The fat guys, on the other hand, often resorted to name-calling. At least she developed a thick skin from those experiences. I observed this dynamic a lot in college. Many overweight individuals acted like they were settling when they agreed to date someone who was also overweight, but when a thin person went on a date with the same overweight individual, they actually gave them a chance and behaved decently. These jerks are unappealing at any weight. Story 4. I've had this friend for many years and his dating criteria are quite something. He's in his 50s and insists on finding a woman in her 30s who's not only very religious but also untouched, never married, supermodel gorgeous, has no cats, isn't Catholic, and doesn't smoke. It's safe to say that such a person is as rare as a unicorn. I mean, do you ever see very religious people staying single into their 30s? How can you find someone who's very religious, unmarried, and drop-dead gorgeous all at once? Add in being a noob to dating and it becomes an even more elusive combination. Maybe a recent religious convert could fit the bill, though they're unlikely to check all those boxes. So at my wedding, he couldn't help but be infatuated with my thrice-divorced Jewish best friend, solely because she's stunning. This makes me think he's primarily interested in the gorgeous part of his list, and the rest would probably be negotiable if he found someone attractive enough. Sorry, bro. If you say your standard's too high, get ready to be lonely for the rest of your life. Story 5. I choose to be a noob. Okay, Edwin. Sure thing. You're 31 years old and a wacko locking himself in his room. The problem is, my friend is the quintessential neckbeard weeaboo. He considers himself an intellectual and anyone who doesn't share his beliefs is beneath him. He wants a petite Japanese maiden. I really dislike the weird stereotype that Japanese women are submissive. He said that she's got to be perfect. She has to have a slightly protruding canine tooth because it's kawaii. He's already limited himself to a niche demographic of women, and he has nothing to offer except his 1996 Honda Civic DX with 203,000 miles. So why am I friends with him? I feel bad for the guy. If he shaved his patchy beard, lost 100 pounds, worked out regularly, and stopped pushing his beliefs onto people, he might actually have a shot with a girl. It doesn't have to be a petite Japanese maiden with a slightly crooked canine tooth as he usually fantasizes. I guess the completely artificial and unrealistic expectations are just a cushion for the fact women aren't interested in him. Such is life. You win some, you lose some. Better luck next time. Yes, it seems like he's made it so that he appears very particular, so others won't know that a woman won't touch him with a 10-foot pole. Surprise, everyone knows. He may have even fooled himself into believing it, because of self-protection, cognitive dissonance, and all of that. However, my experience of Japanese women is that they're not genuinely submissive. They'll play along if you need to feel important because they prefer harmony culturally. They're very aware of other people's needs. That's not submissive, that's cooperative. Men in many societies have been brutal and controlling with them for thousands of years. They know how to work around a self-important guy. You have to have a lot of money to tempt them with their sexist roles because they'd usually rather work and live an independent life. That's why they aren't marrying in Japan anymore. There's no compelling benefit in traditional marriage for them. They don't openly say, "You're either messing with anime pillows in your mom's basement or doing power fantasies at me on your weekends after dying as Pokemon, and I'm not your robot maid." They just skip the conflict and hire a beautiful gigolo to sigh over and giggle with. And no, Edwin, you are not going to make the cut as a worker in Japan. American women rail at self-interested and self-centered man-children. Japanese women shrug because you're not going to get through to these people. They don't see you as a human being. There's ample evidence. So why not spare yourself the humiliation and just be content with your own self-respect? Story 6. Unrealistic expectations of a bad egg. So this guy has this laundry list of absurd expectations. He wants his ideal partner to resemble a supermodel fresh off an airbrushing session, maintain her innocence, excel in the culinary and domestic arts, and accept being treated like a prized possession. All this while tolerating a guy who can't even recall the last time he took a shower and isn't entirely sure if the underwear he's sporting was clean when he first put it on. Oh, and let's not forget about his personality. It's akin to that of a soggy cat. I mean, come on. A grown man channeling the mean girl from the latest Disney tween dramedy? It would be comical if it weren't so exasperating and, well, offensive to anyone with functioning senses. Seriously, buddy, it's time for some personal hygiene lessons. Soap and water should become your best friends. Consider taking a shower at least once a day, and maybe toss those clothes into the washing machine once a week. With utter disbelief, literally everyone at work. Ooh, that sure stings. Let's hope the guy in concern takes the hint and starts scrubbing off all those germs and rage. Hey, If you'd rather promote positivity over unnecessary anger, why not spread the good vibes by liking our video and subscribing to our channel? Story 7. My friend was essentially me 8 years ago. At 22, I was a rookie who had never experienced dating even in middle school. My life mainly revolved around online video games and hanging out exclusively with guys, doing what we stereotypically considered dude stuff. Then something inside me snapped and I made a conscious decision to push past my social anxiety. An acquaintance invited me to a party, and I saw it as an opportunity to meet new people, especially women. You see, my childhood had been marred by relentless bullying, mostly from girls, which had left me with the belief that people despised me. I had this irrational notion that women existed solely to make me feel miserable about myself. Having never had a normal conversation, let alone a relationship, with a girl my age, I didn't see them as regular people. Instead, I held a deep resentment toward them even though I wasn't fully aware of it. It's a painful and paradoxical struggle to long for a relationship with women while simultaneously fearing and blaming them. Many men in similar situations mistakenly believe that getting a girlfriend will solve all their problems. Within a month of attending that party, I started spending less time playing video games and I had new friends, including female ones. These experiences shattered my preconceived notions about gender dynamics, what women want, and all the stereotypes I had built up in my mind. Finally, I was engaging with real people instead of living vicariously through media and hearsay. Reducing contact with my nerdy high school friends also helped, as our insular group had limited our growth. I was allowing myself to grow and, as they say, putting myself out there, despite my paralyzing fear of rejection. Years later, I'm a somewhat normal, friendly, and well-adjusted person with a healthy romantic relationship and plenty of friends. I'm also significantly less angry than I used to be. Looking back, I realized that my incel years were largely a result of my lack of exposure to the world and the fears that came with it. While I blamed many of my problems on the absence of women in my life, the root causes were different from what I believed at the time. What many people overlook in cases like mine is that I didn't necessarily need a girlfriend. Sure, I wanted one, but what I truly needed was a female friend. I needed to interact with women in a way that humanized them for me and made me feel like there were women who could tolerate my presence. Up to that point, the only woman who had ever shown me anything other than disgust was my mother. Later in life, when I became friends with 4 women, they were baffled when months into our friendship they asked me, "Which one of us are you trying to date?" And I replied, "None of you. I just need female friends." I actually wanted to be friend-zoned because it meant I had friends. I realized that having female friends filled a void in my life. I enjoyed conversations about various topics, from cooking to colors to flower arranging, without feeling like I had to conform to some narrow, false version of masculinity. It was as if a part of me that had been stifled for years suddenly saw the light of day. My anger wasn't directed at women, but at the culture that had perpetuated this separation between genders. In hindsight, growing up without female friends, enduring bullying from girls because of my nerdy interests, and the harmful stereotypes ingrained in young men by society led me to a dark place. The division of boys and girls from a young age and the false narratives we were taught about the opposite gender are at the root of this issue. Only when I pushed myself to break free from those preconceived notions and engage with people did I realize that women were far more relatable, and I quickly shed the negative perceptions that had clouded my mind for so long. Story 8. My friend claims he hasn't always been an incel, but for as long as I've known him, he's never had a girlfriend or even a passing fling. And it's all because of his personality. He's highly opinionated about pretty much everything, and an ultra fanboy for certain films, to the point of having a vast collection of toys and other memorabilia, even dedicating an entire spare bedroom to his collection. On the surface, he's a nice guy, but he can go from 0 to 60 fast with his terrible opinions. My coworker mentioned he has a friend like this. He's in his early 40s and my coworker has known him for 20 years. That entire time, I think he got laid maybe 4 times maximum. He's a really nice guy, in great shape, he bikes a lot, a great cook. However, he's a know-it-all to the point that you can't hang out with him for long. He does it to everyone. If you say, "I'm so mad, my car battery died again," he responds with, "What you need to do is." And if you say, "I'm not really into the Olympics and none of my shows are on this week," he says, "What you need to do is go on Netflix and watch." No matter what the topic, it takes this tone as if he has to teach or explain everything to you patiently. I don't think he means to be a jerk, but especially when dating, no woman wants to be mansplained about every topic she brings up in casual conversation. The women flee. Story 9. My friend has extremely low self-esteem and never just goes for it with a girl. He's 25 and still inexperienced, never had a girlfriend in his life despite being reasonably good looking. He would look even better if he lost around 30 pounds, and he's genuinely a good guy. However, for some reason he just can't seem to talk to a girl properly. By that, I mean he struggles with flirting at the right times and essentially being himself. He really does want a girlfriend badly. He's even drunkenly cried about it to me on one occasion. But his problem is that he lacks the confidence to even attempt to chat up girls, even when he's had a wingman introduce him. I think one day he'll get a girlfriend though. He just needs to break out of his shell around women, be himself, go with the flow, and simply relax. One thing that guy could try is to pull himself together and do the forbidden thing. Touch grass. Story 10. He came on way too strongly, insisting on hugging every girl he met, bombarding them with non-stop Facebook messages and phone calls, even if they were already in relationships. If she's already dating someone, dude, you're just wasting your time. He's a good-looking guy, and if he would just stop the borderline exploitation, he might have been in a relationship by now. He asked out every girl all the time. It got to the point where women would warn each other about him in advance. Hey, there's going to be this guy who asks out every girl he meets. He's harmless, so just ignore him. He wants due to tunnel vision, accidentally asked a girl out right in front of her boyfriend. I've been told that women found his shotgun approach annoying, not just because he came on too strong, but also because it showed a lack of personal interest in them as individuals. Apparently, women, and men too, want to feel like there's something unique that you like or value about them, not just that you're looking for a placeholder person. The story has a surprisingly happy ending, though. Other than his approach to women, he had a lot of things going for him. He was a really nice guy, smart, decent looking, and had a good job. He was never a creep, he just tried way too hard. He eventually grew out of it, partly thanks to friends guiding him in the right direction, and I'm sure, partly through maturing. He's now happily married with 2 kids, and his wife isn't someone a desperate person settles for. She's actually quite a catch. Story 11. The first one is a straight-up creep. He openly talks about how much he's into unconventional stuff. He wants a girl who looks young and also likes all the neckbeard hobby stuff that he's into, like wargaming and Toho. He had a girl interested in him once before that he wrote off because she was too fat. Well, she was barely chubby, and wants a perfect one while he himself looks like Gollum. The second is an insufferable sad sack. He constantly self-deprecates with forever alone type stuff, complains and grunts about being a nice guy, gives himself a stupid nickname Panda, and constantly uses it to refer to himself in the third person. The third is attractive, funny, sociable, intelligent, and stable. He's tried fix-ups in online dating, but nothing really works out compatibility-wise. He'll make a great catch for the right lady, he just hasn't had much luck yet. So this last one isn't really an incel, maybe it's just the first 2. Story 12. His core and deeply ingrained belief revolves around the notion that having a woman in his life will miraculously solve all his problems. He believes that with a girlfriend, his depression will vanish. His self-importance will be justified and his resentment towards women will fade away. In his eyes, his inability to connect with women is an external issue, and he views women as self-absorbed beings who find satisfaction in his constant humiliation. His weight has been steadily increasing, and he carries a perpetual sense of gloom. The scapegoat for all these problems? Women and the seemingly unattainable act of copulation. It's worth noting that entitlement is not an inherent human right, but for this individual, he perceives his entitlement as unfairly denied by what he derogatorily refers to as deprecating roasties. Whoa, that's a pretty nasty mindset that objectifies women. Remember, in a real relationship, both parties are human beings and not characters from an anime dating sim. Story 13. Not a friend or an acquaintance, but my uncle. The man is almost 60. He has never lived outside of his parents' house and, despite having a nursing degree, not only has never had a job but has never once had a day where he didn't refuse to look for one. His hobbies are literally drinking in his room, poaching some eggs, going to random places in town just to catch people doing something he doesn't like, littering, wearing something inappropriate, etc., and getting their license plate number so he can pester them. Oh, but don't worry, he has banned payphones and any other method he can use to be a coward. His car, a 2018 Chevy Cruze his mother pays for. His excuse for never looking for a job, by the way, is because his back hurts. No injuries or any health issues, it just hurts. Screw finding a desk job. His back hurts there as well, even though he can spend 4 to 8 hours sitting in his car doing nothing. He's also an insufferable extremist with his opinions, on top of being one of those people who has to know literally everything about everyone and doesn't know how not to start a fight or say something that isn't belligerent. He constantly whines about never once having a girlfriend because they're all drabs who like pieces of crap instead of good guys that will treat them right. What he doesn't get is he can't get a woman because he is him. Not a single thing redeemable about him, and I haven't even scratched the surface in describing just how worthless and despicable a human being he is. I seriously don't know what this idiot is going to do when his mother dies. She does everything for him. If you're up for the challenge, you could try to help deradicalize an incel and see if there's a chance for change. But if all else fails, don't fret. With time, hatred will wither away and nature will find its way of dismantling the so-called manosphere. Now for a brighter note, if you made it to the end of this video and you're still in the mood for some positivity, well, you're lucky. Stay tuned for biggest red flag a woman has on the first date. Story 2 is shocking. See you there.